Alright guys, so we have a potential FF7 remake leak over on Reddit. The guy goes over a lot of stuff, like, a release date potentially, the length of each part of FF7 Remake, characters, materia, cities, etc. FF7 Remake is going to have a huge presence at E3. When people say information blowout, this will be the definition of it. He says to expect a pretty lengthy trailer that will incorporate gameplay and story. There will be a gameplay demonstration as well. We will also get a release date, not a window, but a date, early November 2019. He would not give me a hard day. Now this is the stuff we could all have theorized ourselves, to be honest. So obviously we know because of the end of the teaser trailer, they want to show us more for FF7 Remake at E3 this year. He claims that there's going to be an information blowout, the definition of information blowout, but has Square ever done like a major showing for a game? The best example I could give is Fallout 4 back in 2015. Like, Todd Howard came on stage and like talked about Fallout 4 for like 30 plus minutes, dude. It was pretty crazy. So I'm not really sure if this is something that Square Enix does with their E3 showcases. I don't really watch them. I've tried them out the first couple years after they revealed this game. 2016 was terrible, 2017 was terrible, 2018 was terrible. So I don't ever really pay attention too much to their showcases because I'm only there for FF7 Remake, to be honest. And again, it hasn't been shown every year since 2015. Either way, we know we're getting this game at E3 this year, so hopefully this remains true and they show us a ton of stuff. He also gave me some information about how the game will be split. He claims it will be split into two parts. Part 1 will end with the death of Aerith. The wait between Part 1 and Part 2 will not be a very long wait in comparison to this initial wait. The games will have expanded plot points and locations with tweaks here and there, but the overall narrative will feel familiar to fans of the original. The game being split into two parts would be fantastic because nobody's expecting that. A lot of people have latched on to there being 3 parts to this because of they've used Final Fantasy XIII as an example to explain how this game is going to be, and Final Fantasy XIII was a trilogy. There's 3 games. So I guess people have latched on to the idea that there's going to be 3 parts to this game, but there could very well be 2 parts. They never actually said how many parts they're going to be. They just said it's going to be multi-part. Now, the first part or first game ending after Aerith's death would be a major surprise because it's been a rumor for a long time. A lot of people don't think we're even going to barely get outside of Midgar if we even do it all with the first game. So if the first part went all the way to Aerith's death, that'd be shocking, dude. That's a ton of content. He also says that the wait between each game won't be as long as the initial wait we've had so far, which I think is reasonable. It's been 4 years since the game got revealed, but they've also had development hell. They had to pretty much scrap what CyberConnect 2 did, bring development in-house, and more or less start over, I think. They might have used some of the stuff CyberConnect 2 did, but regardless, they had to pretty much start over. So it makes sense to me that each part or game or whatever you want to call it, not sure what to call it, would come out not too far between each other, maybe a year or 2. And the part about plot points being expanded and tweaks and things to the story, but the story feeling overall the same to people who played the original, is something we've already known about. Also tells me that towns and cities feel much more real and organic. Railroads present and feel like they serve realistic functions, a world that feels living. Each location feels unique and feels like it exists for a reason. It makes sense that people put up shop there once upon a time ago when people were settling in Gaia. So to me, this is something that we all already expect and kind of know is going to happen. They're remaking the game from the ground up. It's going to be a more realistic interpretation of the world of pretty much every town and location. So obviously, cities and towns are going to be expanded. This is to be expected. For those that are interested in the optional characters Yuffie and Vincent, he goes on to say, Yuffie and Vincent will be much more organically tied into the story. He said that even though Yuffie is a mandatory character, the window that you obtain her is optional. Can range anywhere from Junon, I don't know what to say it is these days, region to Rocket Town. She is obtained via side quest early, but an automatically triggered event later if you do not have her in tow. So the bit about Yuffie is slightly confusing the way he words it, because he says that the 2 characters, Yuffie and Vincent, will be more organically tied to the story. But then also that Yuffie is actually mandatory to the story, but also the window to get her is actually optional, and there's a limited amount of time between Junon and Rocket Town that you can actually get her, but also if you miss her, you come across her later on in the story. Like, what? Is she mandatory? Is she optional? What's going on? I don't know. But for the most part, it sounds like you probably obtain her the same way you did in the original game. When you come out of the cave near Fort Condor and Junon, you can run into her in the forested areas, and if you beat her in battle and answer things correctly, choose the options correctly, she'll become a part of your party. Now, when it comes to Vincent, it's pretty easy to tie him into the story. He's got a lot of things that take place before the events of FF7. He's a part of the Turks before he ever became a vampire. I've thought for the longest time now that both of these characters would just be mandatory to the game because you see them in the extended universe, so they're almost not even optional characters. Even though they were in the original game, you see Yuffie and Vincent in other games, in Advent Children, and other stuff like that. You see them in the extended universe. But at the same time, them being optional, fully optional characters in the original game was part of its charm, so I honestly hope that that comes back. I hope that we can skip it. If I want to do a playthrough without Vincent or Yuffie, I hope that that's an actual possibility in the remake. He also goes on to say Genova will be expanded on, but they're going to keep her origins a bit mysterious. She's going to be frightening with this new tech. So I'm not entirely sure what he means by keeping her origins mysterious. I mean, we don't know literally where she came from in outer space, but we know that she came from outer space, crashed down on the northern parts of the planet. Either way, I am definitely excited to see how they handle Genova with the remake. He goes on to give us a little information on how Materia is going to work. He He also states that magic and summon materia will be familiar in their use. Attaching them allows for those options to show up in the command menu, but you want to strategically attach materia as the characters will be a little less blank slates than they were in the OG. They will have their niches in combat, and constantly utilizing them all will be beneficial for players. Trying to just spam one character will not get you very far in the game. You don't want to load your close quarters combat guys with a bunch of magic and weaken their attack and HP stats, since they have to be close to the enemies for melee attacks. Whereas characters like Vincent and Barrett can shoulder a little more, since they do not have to be up close and personal to deal melee damage. This to me makes a lot of sense. In the original game, each materia messed with their stats differently, but it wasn't super noticeable in combat. But in the remake, it's a completely different combat system. If you're using somebody like Cloud who uses a sword, which is close quarters combat, you have to run up on the enemy. The lower attack stat and the lower HP stat is going to be noticeable. But as he points out, if you're using somebody like Vincent or Barrett who use ranged weapons, they use guns, you can stack more material on them because they don't have to be that close to the enemy. So again, this one was slightly obvious because that's how materia worked in the original game, so hopefully in the remake it'll also affect your stats, so you have to choose wisely when equipping materia onto each character. Overall, the information we get in this comment on this Reddit thread is interesting. Some of it's decent sounding, some of it's stuff we already would have assumed was going to happen or already knew was going to happen. I feel like it's almost condescending to tell you guys, hey, take this rumor with a grain of salt or this leak with a grain of salt. Like, you guys already know that. I don't even need to tell you that stuff anymore. I'll have the Reddit post linked in the description below, of course, if you want to go check it out for yourself. There's a couple things we didn't read over or cover, because for one, I didn't want the video to be too long, but it's also other stuff that I just felt like we already kind of assume or know. As always, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and want to stay up to date with more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Turn on my notifications, follow me on Twitter at @TheDashingDavid, at my Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys. That crack. I'm a man, damn it. Give me forever for a while, give me forever for a while. Quit acting like a baby.